Hello doctor and everyone, my name is Arina Husna binti Hussein. My metric number is 202120. I'm from group 9 and today my friends and I are going to present Cat in the Rain by Earnest Hemmingway. So firstly I'm going to talk about the author. His full name is Ernest Miller Hemingway. He was born in July 21st, 1899. He was born in Oak Park, Illinois, United States of America. He died on July 2nd, 1961. His education was from Oak Park and River High School. His notable works are A Farewell to Arms, Hills Like White Elephants, The Sun Also Rises, The Old Man and the Sea, and In Our Time. He was the winner of the Pulitzer Prize in 1953 and he is also the winner of Nobel Prize in 1954. His writing style is simple, objective, and also terse. He used a lot of short sentences and also paragraphs in the majority of his story. So the summary of Cat in the Rain. The day when it rains, the American wife looks out the window and sees a cat under a table. The cat is licking its body dry. She voices her sudden desire to retrieve the cat to her husband. Nonchalantly, her husband tells her not to get wet. As she went downstairs, the hotel operator addresses her. His willingness to please her needs compel her to adore the hotel operator. When she goes out to find the cat, he orders a maid after her with an umbrella. Sadly, the cat disappears, and she goes back to her room in sheer disappointment. Out of the blue, she asks her husband if she should grow her hair out, and her husband says he prefers her hair the way it is now. Then she decides to have a bun at the back of her neck, a cat to pet and stroke, a table with her own silver and new clothes. He orders her to be quiet and find a book to read. She resolutely insists on wanting a cat, and the ambience surrounding them is tense. Then, someone knocks at the door and it is the maid. Surprisingly, she brought the cat along with her, as requested by the hotel operator. So the themes in the story are longing and disappointment. So Cat in the Rain heavily emphasizes the yearning of a woman's deepest and untold desires. The American woman's desperation of wanting the cat mirrors the longing that everyone experiences in their life, a monstrous craving for more and for the better. Quote unquote, with the maid holding the umbrella over her, she walked along the gravel path until she was under their window. The table was there, washed bright green in the rain, but the cat was gone. She was suddenly disappointed. The maid looked up at her. Next is loneliness and isolation. The American woman desperately seeks for companionship and emotional closeness around her, and this includes from her husband, George. Even though they are living in the same hotel room, they are still separated by an invisible wall between them. To pacify her loneliness, she sees a cat and decides to go after it. The story centralizes the alienation of the American woman's married life, her distance from her husband, and the emotional disconnection between them. Quote unquote, his wife was looking out of the window. It was quite dark now and still raining in the palm trees. Next is gender roles and femininity. This short story perfectly portrays women's position in the society. Throughout the story, the husband is given a name, which is George, while the American woman remains nameless. This somehow depicts anonymity and invisibility as a woman during that time. George ignores her every desire and need, alluding that women's needs are rather insignificant and unimportant. The wife acts independently and wears a short hairstyle that reflects a more progressive and rebellious identity of a woman at that period. But still, her desire of wanting the cat, growing out her hair, and buying new clothes are still traditionally feminine. Next is war and tourism. From the beginning of the story, the American wife and George are facing out onto a public garden and the war monument. Even though the war monument is important to the Italians, but the American wife is uninterested and unaware of the history behind the monument. The public garden is deserted because there is no sight of cars or people by the war monument. Also, since it's raining, the overall atmosphere enhances the feeling of desolation. The deserted landscape alludes the destruction war has affected the environment.
Hello everyone, my name is Nafatina Najwa Amira binti Ramli and my matric number is 202117. Okay, so the first point I will explain about point of view. The point of view of this story is third person omniscient, which is there were only two Americans stopping at the hotel, and the way Hemingway used he and she in the story. So the narrative of this story sounds like a third person narrator, but we also exposed to the wife narrative view throughout the story, and outstandingly deep as Hemingway described herself and her feeling with such details. So for the next, I will talk about setting. The first one is time. In 1925, right after World War I ended. The next point is place, which is Italy. This is because Hemingway ever stationed to Italy during that time. The next point is second floor of a hotel that facing the sea and near to the public garden and monument. A room where an American wife and her husband George stay. The next excerpt is a little banter happened between George and her wife. So the next point is office, where the patron bow and greet the wife, and also the next place is table near to the empty square to the cafe. The place where the wife saw the cat lay down under it to avoid itself from the heavy rain. So for the season, it's rainy season. It's because of this line. Talk about it was raining harder. A man in a rubber cap was crossing the empty square to the cafe. So for the character, we have the American wife, which is the protagonist of the story, a nameless young American woman. She wanted the cat so bad so that she can stroke it. She has a boyish haircut with an attractive look. She is a lonely woman that currently unhappy with her marriage, even though there is a presence of her husband. She is tired of short hair, so that she wanted to grow a long hair that she can make a big knot. She also desired for a silver and candle on her dining table and wished for the spring so that she can sit in front of the mirror while brushing her hair. So for the next character is George, the husband. The American wife husband, he just spent his time reading in the room, and he unable to relate his wife loneliness and unhappiness. So the next character is Padron, the hotel keeper. He is an Italian old man that tall and dignified. He always look up for his guests with his whole heart, and he seems to be more aware about the American wife feeling. And the last character in this story is the maid. She is an Italian woman, works under the hotel keeper. She is powerless as she is doing everything that asked from the hotel keeper, but she also a bold woman as she is laughing when the American wife determines to find the cat in the rain.
My name is Nurul Aini binti Zainal. My matric number is 203172. So I will continue with values of this short story. The first one is courtesy. This is shown by the hotel keeper when he spots the American wife. He bows to her politely and also sends a maid to accompany the American wife outside in the rain. Example of the excerpts that we can find in the story that portrays this courtesy is she liked the deadly serious way he received any complaints. She liked his dignity. She liked the way he wanted to serve her. The next one is dutiful. This can be seen in the maid's act as a housekeeper to keep the hotel room clean and maintain it in a good condition. The maid also does her job instructed by the hotel keeper by accompanying the American wife to find the cat. For example, as she stood in the doorway, an umbrella opened behind her. It was the maid who looked after their room. "You must not get wet," she smiled, speaking Italian. Of course, the hotel keeper had sent her. The next one is patriotism. This can be seen obviously in the beginning of the story, as we can see the existence of the war monument in front of the hotel. We can also see the spirit of patriotism in the Italians who have come a long way just to see the war monument. So moving on to the plot of the story. In the exposition, there are only two Americans that stopping at the hotel. It is raining. Both of the Americans does not know anyone there. There are a public garden as well as a war monument that facing their room. In the rising action, we can see that the American wife notices a cat under a table that is trying not to get soaked in the rain from her window. She decides to go downstairs and take the cat. In the climax, the American wife goes downstairs and out from the hotel room to look for the cat. The Italian maid sent by the hotel keeper helps her to find the cat, but unfortunately, the cat is not there. In the following action, we can see that the American wife complains about so many things and expresses her dissatisfaction. She keeps saying that she wants a cat so badly. Her husband is not paying attention but keeps on reading his book. And finally, the resolution, we can see that the maid brings a big tortoise-shell cat to the American wife's room, and she says that the hotel keeper asked her to give that cat to her. Moving on to the messages. The first message of this story is to be compassionate. We must have a sense of compassion and love for animals as they are the gentle and fragile creatures, especially cats. No matter who we are, either adults or children, we should protect the animals if they are endangered or being trapped in the rain. Example in the story, we can see that the American wife going through the rain just to save the cat. The next one is importance of reading. Reading is a great habit to expand and increase our knowledge for everything. We should incorporate reading into our habits. For example, we can see that the husband of the American wife, George, is so indulged in his book, and when her wife wants to go downstairs to get the cat, he continues to lie in bed and read the book, and he also still reading when her wife comes back to the room. And the next one is communication is key. In relationship, it is vital to have a two-way communication. Through communication, both parties will achieve a great understanding towards each other. Throughout the story, George and his wife seems very lack of communication. As a husband, he fails to listen to his wife's needs and attention. He is also being ignorant. Example in this story, George was not listening. He was reading his book. "Oh, shut up and get something to read," George said. He was reading again.
Hi, my name is Nur Ima Hanania binti Hairizan and my matrix number is 203403.
Now we're moving on to plot technique. In Cat in the Rain, there are symbols. One of them is the cat. The cat symbolizes loneliness, vulnerability, and connection, and also child. Just like the American wife, the cat that gets stuck in the rain is lonely and vulnerable. The American wife is longing for intimate bonds, which are lacking between her and her husband. Her life seems to be unhappy and also very boring. The American wife wants to build a family but because of her lack of connection with her husband, it seems impossible. Secondly, new clothes. It symbolizes new life. The American wife wants a life which is not the life she is living now. She wants a happy life and not the dull and boring one. Other than that, we have foreshadowing. For example, war monument. The war monument represents the conflict that is about to happen in the story. Secondly, the rain. The rain represents the disappointment that the American wife will face. That is, she couldn't find the cat. Then we have allusion. Also, the war monument. The monument is dedicated to those who died in the World War I throughout Europe. The tragedy is still fresh and new when the short story is written. We also can find imagery in Cat in the Rain. For example, the American wife said, she laid her mirror down on the dresser and went over to the window and looked out. It was getting dark. The duck here represents the disappointment of the American wife who couldn't find the cat. The duck indicates the gloomy feelings of the wife. Other than that, for example, his wife looked out of the window where the light had come on the square. This means that the maid brings the cat to the American wife. Unfortunately, it is a different cat. The light indicates that something that may make the American wife happy will come. Now we're moving on to style of writing, which is first foreign language. In this short story, there are Latin language used. For example, il pio, the wife said. Another example is sì signora, brutto tempo. And other than that, the style of writing is descriptive. For example, it was getting dark now and still raining in the palm trees. And then I want to pull my hair back and tight and smooth and make a big knot at the back that I can feel. Other than that, short sentences. Come, signora, she said. And then, we must get back inside. You will be wet. That's when we have social criticism. Firstly, the basic needs of an individual. As a wife, the woman wants to feel loved, secure, and also needs attention from her husband. You can find this when the American wife said, and I want to eat at a table with my own silver, and I want candles, and I want it to be spring, and I want to brush my hair out in front of a mirror, and I want a kitty, and I want some new clothes. But then her husband, George, says, oh, shut up and get something to read. That means that her husband is ignoring her. Secondly, part of a lonely wife. The wife is unfulfilled and childless. The husband do not understand what the wife is seeking. The wife says, it isn't any fun to be a poor kitty out in the rain. As you can see that the kitty symbolizes her. And then we have the role of a husband. The American husband seems not to care about his wife's needs. The writer represents us with another character, which is the hotel keeper, to show us the readers what a husband should have been like. We can see that the American wife really liked the hotel keeper when she said she liked the way he wanted to serve her. Liking him, she opened the door and looked out. That's all for now. Thank you.